We started our tour of Morocco in Casablanca with a welcome dinner at Rick's Cafe, the mythical saloon from the film Casablanca. Here we met the rest of the tour group. From here we went to the Hassan II Mosque. Set in a large square on a promontory overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, it's the largest mosque in Morocco. The minaret is the highest in the world at 689 feet. The walls are handcrafted marble inlaid with ceramic tiles. The mosque was commissioned by King Hassan II to honour his father, King Mohammed V. Work started in 1986 and was completed in 1993. 10,000 artists and craftsmen participated in building and beautifying the mosque. The design over the doors is known as the Stairway to Heaven. The mosque can accommodate 25,000 worshippers inside and a further 80,000 in the grounds. The following morning we left Casablanca by coach and drove to Rabat, where we stopped first to see the lighthouse and cemetery at Fort Colette. We then drove along the seafront and turned into the centre of Morocco's capital. This part of the city is very modern, with a new tram system. Passing through the gate of the old city, we came to the Hassan Tower, which is guarded by mounted ceremonial troops. Started in 1195, the tower was intended by the then Sultan to be the tallest in the world, and to stand alongside the world's largest mosque. In 1199 the Sultan died, and work stopped, with the tower at only half its intended height of 260 feet. The rest of the mosque was also left incomplete, with only the beginnings of several walls and 200 columns being constructed. The tower was designed with internal ramps, so the muezzin could ride a horse to the top to give his call to prayer. Opposite the tower is the mausoleum of King Mohammed V, who ruled Morocco from 1927 to 1961. It also contains the tombs of King Hassan II and his brother Abdullah. Alongside the mausoleum is a modern mosque. The green roof is the colour of Islam. Outside the wall, a hawker was selling nougat. We drove on past cork plantations, olive groves and wheat fields until we came to the ancient imperial city of Meknes. The city is famous for its imposing gates, this one being the Bab el Khamis. Driving into the city, we eventually came to the richly decorated Bab el Mansour. The gate is directly opposite the market square. Here they sold hundreds of tagines, the typical Moroccan cooking vessel. We motored on through attractive narrow streets until we eventually came to a restaurant where we had lunch. The meal finished with mint tea, which is poured from a great height, as hospitality should be enjoyed by all senses: sight, smell, taste and sound. We continued through rich agricultural land until we came to the ancient city of Volubilis, which was founded by the Phoenicians in the 3rd century BC. It was developed by the Romans in the 1st century AD. On the wall is a map of the Roman Empire. The path gives views over the lush countryside before eventually arriving at the partially excavated ruins. The city owed much of its prosperity to olive growing. This would once have been the home of a rich family, as shown by the well-preserved remnants of its mosaic floor.
So we're talking about the patricians living within walls versus the flagstone they were using to crush olives.
The remains of an olive press can still be seen in the garden. These would have been shops, and the slots would allow for shutters when the store was closed. The Capitoline temple was dedicated to the Roman gods of Juno, Jupiter and Minerva. In front of this is the basilica, a kind of combined town hall and law court. Then comes the market square, which contains tablets with well-preserved carvings. Inside the ruins of the basilica, one of the pillars has been adopted by a family of storks. The storks also appear to have lodgers. The triumphal arch provides a frame for a beautiful view. This house contains 3 types of columns: fluted, spiral and plain. Mosaics in various houses depict a man riding a donkey backwards and the labours of Hercules. Water was brought to the site by an aqueduct. Close to the aqueduct is the bathhouse and public toilet. The aqueduct paralleled the Decumanus Maximus, or main street, which ended at the triumphal arch. The path through the olive groves leads back to the entrance. From here we drove through the olive groves, past fields and reservoirs, until we reached Fez, the 2nd largest city in Morocco. Hidden away down a narrow alley in the middle of Fez is the Riad El Yakout. A riad is a traditional Moroccan house with a central garden or courtyard. This one had been converted into a family-run hotel. The central courtyard is lined with tiles and glass, with several small rooms leading off. These are used as private dining rooms, libraries and lounges. The swimming pool is in the rear courtyard. This is surrounded by bedrooms. The upper floor of the central courtyard has a balcony overlooking the dining room. Around the edges of this balcony are suites. We stayed in the Yakut suite. On the very top is a roof garden. This gives views over the swimming pool and the surrounding city. The staple food of Morocco is bread, and breakfast provided a good variety. After breakfast, we went first of all to the Fez city walls. The scaffolding holes were left open for ventilation, but the birds quickly moved in. Alongside the walls is a public garden, at the end of which is the royal palace. The bronze doors are kept firmly closed. This gateway leads to the 15th century Jewish quarter, where stalls sell all kinds of food and household items. From here we went to a fortress on a nearby hill to look down over the whole city with its many minarets. Then we went down to visit a pottery. Like the Riad, this surrounds an open courtyard. Everything starts with grey clay, which is puddled in this tank. In one part of the factory, the clay is turned on a wheel operated by the potter's foot. This type of pot is shaped by shaving off excess clay. The second potter is making egg cups in a more traditional way. In another area, skilled artists are decorating pieces of pottery. These are then fired to produce the finished article. Some kilns are used for pottery and some for tiles, but all use olive pits as fuel. We were then told how the tiles are used for mosaic work. A team of craftsmen carefully cut the tiles into various shapes. These are then undercut to leave them wider at the top than the bottom. They're then assembled face down on the floor to produce tabletops. For detailed work they're cut very accurately, but for general mosaics they can be done more crudely. Most of the products are displayed in the showroom. Being handmade by craftsmen, prices are fairly high, and these fountains are £1,000 each. Larger items are displayed in the outside courtyard. From here we went into the 9th century Medina called Fez El Bali, one of the world's largest pedestrian zones. This part is newly renovated and was recently reopened by the king. These are loganberries. Big baskets of rose petals are displayed right next to the camel meat shop, where you can also buy sheep's heads. Next to the fish stall, the cat was enjoying the scraps. Nearby, hanks of wool were being dyed and wrung out into the alley. Lamps are always popular in Moroccan markets. Everything is handmade in public view. Donkeys are the only means of transport through the narrow passageways. Some of the buildings are shored up with heavy wooden props. You can buy headgear for women and, being fez, for men as well, as one of our group demonstrates. Fez is home to the world's oldest university, founded by a woman in 859, and this door leads to the library. We continued past various stalls and shops, many with interesting architecture. Then we came to the restaurant where we were to have lunch. From here we went to a leather shop. The roof overlooks one of 3 tanneries which date back nearly 1,000 years. In the white vats, hides are first soaked in cow urine, quicklime and salt to loosen fat and hair, then in water and pigeon poo to soften the leather. It's then washed and dried on terraces before being dyed in the coloured vats. All this is done with the tanners standing waist deep in the vats, pummeling the hides with their feet. It's astonishing that such a crude process can produce such beautiful products as these coats.
We can do this by ordering 3-4 hours.
We passed more craft workshops before visiting a weaving shed in an ancient building.
We do also covers, we do scarves, all done by
First we were shown the fabrics produced here.
only wool, 3 meters long by 2. What we can weave with these looms, 3 by 2.5.
Then we got a demonstration of the various methods of wearing headscarves.
This is the desert style, please. So we try to do different ways. Can I cover?
Oh, I take a picture of you.
For the deserts, we cover like this. Deserts? Yes.
Eventually we all ended up wearing different styles. The Medina is so big that the quickest way to the other side is to go round the walls by coach. The Bab Bou Jaloud is decorated with blue tiles, blue being the colour of Fez. The other side of the gate is green, the colour of Islam. We went to a madrasa, or school, founded in 1351 for the education of boys and girls of any religious background. It's the only madrasa in Fez with a minaret. As well as the elaborate tile work, there's also intricate wood carving. We returned through the market to the hotel. The next day we left Fez and drove through the ever-changing countryside, starting with the apple-growing area and pine forests leading up to the Middle Atlas Mountains. The first stop was at Ifrane, developed by France in 1928 as a hill station. It's an alpine-looking village and a winter ski resort. In the park is the statue of a lion. We drove through wheat fields to the forests of the Ifrane National Park, where Barbary macaques wait at the side of the road for tourists to feed them. It's not a good idea to let them get too close to the food packet. As we drove on, we came into a more barren landscape. We stopped at this beautiful hotel for lunch. We drove on through mountainous scenery and small towns before coming to a typical service area, where you always find a butcher's shop to sell you your lunch, and someone with a charcoal barbecue to cook it. We then began the long descent into the valley of the Ziz River. The river forms an oasis which runs 175 miles from the Middle Atlas Mountains to the Sahara in Algeria. Finally, we arrived at the Jalouka Madid Hotel, where we were welcomed by musicians. The hotel is built in the form of a kasbah, a walled fortress with watchtowers at each corner. There are several quiet courtyards, surrounded by cloister-like corridors. The rooms are off the corridors. The wash basin is made from fossil rock from nearby Erfoud, which we will see later. Driving past the palms, we came to Rissani and the mausoleum of the first member of the current Moroccan royal family. It's in the form of a peaceful cloister garden. Then we went to the Bedouin village of Tar. This ancient village with narrow streets is built of mud blocks which were made in situ and mud bricks. A lady invited us into her house and she showed us the living room with music provided by her mobile phone. We also saw the bedroom and kitchen. We took a pleasant stroll round the outside of the village in this lovely rural area. Back in Rissani, our local guide took us to the market.
They mix this with honey. And they have babies.
Then we went to a bakery to see a Bedouin speciality of bread stuffed with meat being prepared for our lunch. Afterwards we went to the obligatory carpet shop where we were shown how to make mint tea.
We wash the hands first before making tea.
They use lots of sugar in the tea.
But this is just a little bit.
After the hot water has been added, the pot is returned to the heat to boil it up again.
From the pot to the glass.
There really were some very beautiful carpets, and quite a few members of our party bought one.
It's reversible. Berber Picasso.
Is that done by hand? Is it done?
Camel wool and cactus fiber.
When we left the carpet shop, we all paddled into 4x4s and headed out towards the Sahara. There's no real road through here, and it's a giant racetrack. After a while, we stopped at a Bedouin camp. The animal pen is made of canes, and fresh water is kept in a goat skin. Then we went into a tent for the by now inevitable cup of tea. The tent is held up by rough poles leading to a designer support for the waterproof camel wool roof. Back in the 4x4s we came to a series of kasbahs on the edge of the dunes. An underground irrigation system makes this inhospitable area surprisingly fertile, as we found when we took a walk round the farm. At the end of the walk we came to a caravan park where we were each allocated a camel. Some people found it a bit tricky to get on board, and once on, getting up was even more hair-raising. This one had a grand set of teeth. Once we were all on board, we formed into a train to begin our trek across the Sahara. One and a half painful hours later, we arrived at the desert camp to find the main film crew had cheated and gone by quad bike. I said goodnight to my camel and we were shown to our accommodation, a luxury tent with full ensuite facilities. We got up early to see the sunrise on the dunes. This gorgeous baby camel and its mum were wandering around the camp. Eventually they were led away. Then it was back on the camels for a shorter return ride. The film crew was waiting for us at the 4x4s, along with others who'd got the quad bike idea. The camels arrived and everyone began to dismount. I don't think I'll ever be able to walk the same again. I said goodbye to my camel and we moved on to the fossil factory where slabs of fossil-bearing rock are sliced into sheets before being made into decorative items.
You can see here the long one.
Yes.
Those are calamari or squid.
The sheets are polished with this machine to make tabletops, and other blocks are carved to show the individual fossils in 3D. Everything is sold in the factory shop. We return to the Ziz Oasis. Here we stopped on the top of a hill to look down across the valley to the ancient settlements on the opposite side. Then we went down into the Todra Gorge, which is in the eastern part of the High Atlas Mountains. The canyon is only 33 feet wide, with sheer smooth rock walls up to 500 feet high on each side. The river must have been much bigger when the gorge was carved. The rocks are very unstable, and a major fall landed on the terrace of a restaurant. All restaurants in the gorge have been closed by the government as a safety precaution. Tonight's hotel was the Zaluka Dades, which had uniquely styled bedrooms. The room balconies looked out over the town and the Dades River. We left Dades on the road of 1,000 kasbahs. There may not be 1,000, but there's a heck of a lot of them. It's also called the Valley of the Roses, and at the side of this kasbah we stopped at a shop selling rosewater toiletries. The road continued through the desert, although there was the occasional reservoir. Eventually we came to the city of Ouarzazat, centre of the Moroccan film industry. The roundabouts had film-related sculptures. Many well-known films and TV series have been made here, from Lawrence of Arabia to Game of Thrones. We left town on a wide boulevard, which passed the film studios. Rounding a bend, we got our first sight of the World Heritage Site of Ksar Ait Ben Haddou, a typical pre-Saharan group of earthen buildings. In the nearby town, we picked up our local guide, who led us down to the river. Once we'd crossed the bridge, we climbed the slope and entered the old town. We stopped at an artist's studio. He paints with indigo, tea and saffron dissolved in water. These are clear, but the colour develops on heating. The oldest building in the town is from the 17th century, although the mud block architectural style dates from a much earlier period. It was one of the many trading posts on the original route between Sudan and Marrakech. It was quite a pull up to the very windy top. Chris and some others decided not to make the final ascent, so she got filmed for a change. We returned to the new town, then drove to the Tizi and Tichka Pass in the High Atlas Mountains. The road climbs to 7,400 feet and is the highest major mountain pass in North Africa. Near the summit, we stopped at a ladies' cooperative where they make argan oil products.
For ladies.
We continued our descent to a coffee stop. From here there was a panorama over the Atlas foothills. We then came down onto the plain and eventually came to the outskirts of Marrakech. We passed the Royal Theatre and railway station to arrive at our hotel, which was between the two. From our room we had an excellent view over this part of Marrakech. Thank goodness for double glazing. We started our visit to Marrakech by going to the Lala Hansa Park, named after the sister of the current king. The guys in red are dressed as water sellers. Traditionally they brought water in goatskin bags from distant cisterns to sell in the souk. Even when flavoured with mint or lemon, it always tasted rather of goat. The park has lots of plants, including a wide variety of palm trees, some of which are real and others are cleverly designed foam masts. At the end of the park is a 12th century Koutoubia mosque. Its minaret can be seen from all over the city, and the gibbet-like structure at the top points towards Mecca. A muster of storks have made their homes on the top of the city walls. Within the city lie the tombs of 60 members of the Saadi dynasty, built between 1578 and 1603. The monuments are made of Italian Carrara marble. The head of the subsequent dynasty had the entrance sealed, and the tombs were only discovered in 1917 by a French aerial survey. Throughout the grounds are the graves of servants and soldiers. A short walk through the narrow streets took us to the Mellah, the former Jewish quarter, which has recently undergone major modernisation. Nearby is the El Bahaya Palace. Set in beautiful gardens, it's a collection of buildings around a large central courtyard. The palace was built by the Grand Vizier, or chief political advisor to the Sultan of Morocco, in the late 19th century for his personal use. More buildings and courtyards have been added over the years. From here we walk to the souk, a maze of narrow streets and alleys filled with shops selling just about everything. Eventually we came out into Gemma El Fnar, the enormous square in the middle of the city. By day it's relatively quiet, with just a few stallholders and fortune tellers. Here you can take a horse-drawn carriage ride or buy fresh squeezed fruit juice. When we got back to our hotel, we could clearly see the snow-capped High Atlas in the distance. The next morning we drove the 40 minutes from Marrakech to the stunning Ourika Valley, home to many Berber villages. We went to Kasbah Omar, a small riad. From the top floor we could look down into the central courtyard. We then went onto the roof terrace with its magnificent views over the valley. Berbers are the descendants of the pre-Arab inhabitants of North Africa. They live in scattered communities across the whole region. Here we were to have a cookery class, learning to make tagines and cooked salad, a Moroccan version of ratatouille. One of the ladies of the house showed us what to do, starting by dicing aubergines and putting them in the salad pan. Then we peeled the tomatoes, unblanched and with blunt knives.
Get rid of the thing first.
We cut them up and took out the seeds.
If we take the seeds out of that, there's not going to be.
Not much left really. This took a lot of concentration. Meanwhile, beef was being put in the tagine. Now we started to prepare the carrots. Believe it or not, we had to take the middles out. Yeah, really. Some found this hilarious. Next, the potatoes were cut into wedges and the peppers charred directly on the gas flame.
Not on his barbecue.
Not on his barbecue.
Once the meat had been browned, the carrots are added.
And you could put a bit of aesthetics in the tagine. You don't just crumb the things out, you know, so.
Then came the courgettes. Artistically, of course. The potatoes are put on top and the tagine left to simmer. Back in the salad area, garlic is chopped finely. This is a job best left to the men. Spices, tomato puree and olive oil are liberally added to the salad.
Also, all right, both oils.
Morocco, from Iran, Turkey, and they have spices.
The charred peppers are scraped, cut into strips, and then diced before adding to the salad, which is then left on a low heat. The final ingredient for the tagine is peas, after which the cover is put on top and it's left to simmer until everything is cooked. Whilst we were waiting, some of the ladies had their hands tattooed with henna.
This way to Marrakech. All aboard the train. Then the sign stays.
She was bouncing up and down on the pillow. It was moving her.
When the henna is dried, it falls off to leave a temporary tattoo, which will just last a few days. After eating the best meal of the trip, we climbed the hill to the village pottery. Here they make jugs for the wholesale trade, throwing them by hand and working everything by eye. It's amazing that the lids fit every time. The pots are dried outside in the yard. We walk back down through the village and return to Marrakech. In the evening, along with thousands of others, we went back to the main square. Now it had really come to life, with stalls selling fruit and souvenirs. You could even get a henna tattoo. There are entertainers of all kinds, even a drag belly dancing act. One of our group really got into the spirit of things. Many people just go for the food. There's a rooftop cafe where, for the price of a drink, you could get an excellent view over the whole square, where we could take in all the sights and sounds of this diverse, beautiful, fascinating country.